Hey, welcome to Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. I am your host, the Dharma Guy, here as always with the Dope Doctor.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are just tuning in on WPSN99.com, you are missing out because those who are watching behind the scenes on Facebook Live got to see us struggling to get everything started here.
Always.
We take a trip to California and we do the Couch Live out there, and apparently everything goes to hell. So there's that, right? Speaking of which,
what's up, everybody?
Speaking of which, that was my first time in California. I had a blast. The weather was fantastic, and we had a great show. We did the Couch Live, which you can see
Orange County.
You can see the video in its entirety on YouTube today. Okay, YouTube.com/The Couch Live.
It'll be on in about a couple hours.
Okay. We interviewed Jason Waller from The Hills, OC. I think
The Hills New Beginnings. And his show's coming back out. Yeah. Jason Waller.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. I actually really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
It was a good interview, so be sure to check that out as well. Having said that, it sucks to be back in this weather. I'm not gonna lie. This weather's brutal, man.
You are such a wimp with that.
Yes. When it comes to weather, I'm the high maintenance one.
Yeah.
You're high maintenance everything else.
We flip.
I'm the weather.
Yeah, that's true.
The weather out there was beautiful. Anyways,
that's so true.
I digress.
Right.
Let's just get started, man.
Cindy's in good weather. Cindy's in like Colorado, I think.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
No,
we were in Colorado a little bit. Trying to get back home. We landed in Denver.
Dude, we were everywhere.
We were in
all
every
over
city.
the place.
Every city.
Anyways, so today's show, man, I say we just jump right into it. Today's show is going to be on hate is still hate.
Right.
And we decided to come up with that because we're noticing a lot of vitriol, if you will. We'll call it that. All over the media and things of that nature. And the one thing that I've noticed is there's individuals out there who feel justified in their stance on whatever that stance may be, and they kind of judge or point fingers or yell at the other side of things, and judging the other side for being hateful and unaccepting and intolerant, and yet they don't realize they're kind of doing the same thing.
Sounds very political, Trinity.
Well, oh God, I know. You're going to jump right into that area.
Oh, you're going to blame me. You're the one that came up with the title of the show.
I'm absolutely going to blame you.
Oh, okay.
But because
I'm not supposed to bring up all the little powder puffs out there that's crying about everything, right?
Yes. No, I mean, by all means, this is one of the few shows I think we can get a little political, but in a generic form, not taking sides here.
Yeah.
But no, I think it bears discussing, though. I mean, I think that the thing that I've noticed, though, is oftentimes we get so stuck in our own convictions.
Right.
We get so stuck in the justification of our own stance that we oftentimes forget that the other side feels just as vindicated, just as justified in whatever stance that they have.
Right.
And we forget to, find some sort of a middle ground here. We forget to tolerate, I guess, that there's opinions out there that are different from ours. And so, yes, I will use the example of politics at the moment.
It's like you have to. If you're going to talk about hate right now, there's only one great example of hate right now. But they would never say that.
No. So the example I think we're both kind of tap dancing and referring to, tap dancing around, is at the moment the
Marissa brought out her popcorn.
I see that. So the one that I'm gonna stick the most on, I guess, is and I'm for full transparency. I think you and I both align ourselves as an independent.
Right.
Neither one of us are really kind of more towards either party, I guess.
Yeah.
I think we see.
Although I voted more Democrat in my life. I think I voted all Democrat in my life, even though I'm independent.
I think I pretty much voted mostly Democrat in my life as well.
Yeah, I can't think of a Republican I voted for, even though I'm independent.
But having said that, right now, I do think it's interesting to me, right? And I've had this conversation with other people in my life in a non-political realm, even though I guess the subject matter might have been politicky, I guess we'll call it that. So you have individuals. The person I spoke to. They identify as gay, right? Homosexual, whatever term you want to put it.
Okay.
The person I was talking to identifies as that, and they had such hatred and vitriol towards a segment of the population that didn't want them to get married and things of that nature.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And they were basically saying, they got to suck it up and get over it, and too bad, Okay. And I was like, well, hold up. Let me ask you a question here. Now, what's the difference between you saying they got to just suck it up and get over it, your way is the right way, and what they feel? Because at some point they were the majority and they ran things and they were basically saying, suck it up and get over it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember you being very happy when that was the case. Mm-hmm. But now that you got the numbers, now all of a sudden you're okay with the idea of it's our way, just get over it.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at is like right now you see a lot of times in the media and stuff, like the supposed liberal side of things, they're going on about saying, hey, we don't accept this, that's hate speech or whatever it may be. They have a long list of things that they kind of make their opinions known on.
Right.
But for me personally, they've lost the higher ground. For a significant amount of time, I felt anyways, they had the higher ground. They had the moral high ground because they were talking about, acceptance and tolerance and things of that nature. And
people were intolerant. It was, the 80s was, and before that, anything before the 80s was very difficult for gay people.
Yes. Well, just in general.
Except in Plato days, apparently. Socrates days, it was okay then.
In general, though. The liberals had the market, if you will, on just acceptance and tolerance as a whole.
Yeah.
They were talking about, accept everybody for they are, things of that nature. But then it seems recently they've lost a higher ground because now they're going on the offensive. Now they're they're attacking, and what's funny to me though is they're using now there's for instance somebody gets caught with a Make America Great hat on, right?
Oh boy, here we go.
And that person gets accosted in public for whatever reason, yelling at them and screaming at them, saying that they're all sorts of whatever.
Yeah, calling them a racist and stuff.
Yeah, and then when they complain about it and they say, "Oh, hold up! Like, why are you treating me this way?
Right.
Like, all I have a different opinion than you, and I have a hat on.
So what?"
Then the person was like, "Oh, poor baby, you're a snowflake." So they're using those same words kind of against them, and it's like, I understand the anger, I understand the frustration by feeling that you were oppressed essentially for years, and now you feel like they're getting their just due, I guess. However, you've lost a moral high ground now when you're doing the exact same thing that you hated them for. And I know you feel justified in your stance, but you're no better than they are now. Making fun of somebody because they have a MAGA hat on, to me, there's no difference than making fun of somebody who's gay then.
No, it's like, in other words, it's MAGA bashing is the same as gay bashing is what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm going to say the same.
Yeah, MAGA bashing. Well, at least with the gay bashing, at least the premise for a lot of people, not the bashers, because bashers are just bashers. They're just punks, right? But the premise was a religious belief system. And we are in this country because of religious freedom. Right. So that's the premise. But gay bashers were always just assholes.
Yeah.
All right? But now MAGA bashers, they don't even have the premise of religious freedom. They just have they're just assholes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think, and so what I'm saying is we're all kind of guilty of that, and I think that bears some contemplative thought, if you will. You know what I mean? I think that if you're truly talking about tolerance and acceptance, then you have to tolerate everybody and accept them.
They don't.
No, of course not.
See, that's human behavior. It's so easy to be on one side the whole time. When you look, I love supporting the underdog.
Right.
But once the underdog becomes an asshole,
yeah, you lost the moral high ground.
You lost me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because now all of a sudden, it shows what your true feelings were. Your true issue the entire time was, I want to be in control. Give me the ball, but I don't trust you or want you to play. I just want the ball.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when you have the ball, if you really had a moral principle, you would stick to your morals and values, meaning love, tolerance, and all. No, these people right now are the most intolerant people I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Have this many microphones, have this many cameras, have this much of a voice. It is ruining my television, Trinity. It is ruining my movies, and it is ruining my music.
Well,
dude, Robert De Niro has become an asshole. I love Robert De Niro. I've always loved Robert De Niro. I can't stand to listen to that guy talk now.
You know, there's a comic that I saw, or
and they ruined comedy. Don't even get me on start. You can't even have jokes anymore.
No, of course not. You offend everybody.
Comedy is dead.
But there was a cartoon I saw. I think it was yesterday or the day before that I thought was amazing to me.
What?
And I almost shared it, but I don't want to piss everybody off because I think automatically they will assume what I'm talking about, even though once again you and I are both independent.
Yeah.
But there was a sign, or a comic, and the guy was holding up a sign, and on the sign it said pro-life.
Right.
And he was pointing to somebody in front of him saying, "If you touch my sign, I'll kill you." And it was the best comic I think I've seen in years, because to me it shows the hypocrisy there, right? And that's what I'm talking about, and not just on a political stance. I mean, the political thing is easy at the moment because it's all over the news. Right. I'm just saying in general.
Everybody's so damn sensitive.
Yeah,
now,
well,
man.
we all kind of get caught up in this, like, my perspective is the right perspective.
And that's it.
And if I'm more mad than you, then I'm right.
Right.
Well, no, just because you're mad doesn't mean, and it goes for both sides, right? Because I remember the days when Obama was president and a lot of Republicans were upset and they were getting nooses.
And I hated that too.
Yeah.
I hated
You're
that.
both ridiculous.
Right.
You know?
They blamed everything on Obama.
Yeah.
Everything was Obama's fault. I remember that.
Yeah.
Obama. Oh, thanks, Obama. Thanks. That was the whole joke. Thanks, Obama.
Exactly.
Right?
And so for me, you know, I didn't like that when that was happening, because obviously Obama wasn't at fault for all of this stuff. Like, you stubbed your toe. Thanks,
it's
Obama.
one person. It's a president.
Sure, and that was a cool
There's a
thing
whole
to
system
say.
in place.
But when you said that, it was accepted. Like, everybody was like, yeah, okay, that's ridiculous. But now the roles are reversed.
Well, television never supported that, though. Television and the media never supported that "thanks Obama" thing. That was a segment of society.
That's what I'm saying.
A small segment of society.
That's what I'm saying. Is they accepted the idea of that's BS.
Right.
Like, thanks Obama. No, they never latched on to that.
Yeah.
But now that the tables have turned a little bit,
Dude.
everything is thanks Trump. Like, it's his fault. Like, he's an all-seeing, all-knowing God out there that can do things. And that's what kind of worries me, is obviously coming from a spiritual perspective.
Yeah. Like, all of a sudden, politicians were honest.
Yeah. Well, somebody put up their "I don't like lies."
Dude, every politician has lied.
Well, you know, no one person or one entity has the copyrights on lies. I mean, they're universal. I guess my problem, though, is coming from a spiritual perspective. You know, my goal is to find enlightenment. My goal is to find happiness, right? And I don't think what people realize is happiness is not going to come if you're holding this stuff in. You know what I mean? If you're holding this angst and this judgment, this anger towards any group, I don't care what side of the equation you're on, you're losing. You know what I mean? Like, that's the losing side, is the side that's holding on to all that anger. And I'm talking to you right now. If you're out there thinking you're justified in your hatred of any group, you're wrong. You're just, plain and simple, you are wrong.
Yeah, it's never justified.
And that's the thing, is people don't realize is, you know, some of these people that you're angry with, to be honest with you, at the end of the day, most of them, granted, you got the outliers. Some are just, as you point out, just assholes.
Right.
But for the most part, they're just uneducated. They're ignorant on some sort of a topic, whatever it may be. They don't have the same perspective that you have.
Right.
That's it. That's all it is.
Well, it's just so fueled, Trinity. I mean, it's just the television and movies and the overall media, the majority of the media is just fueling this. They love this. Mm-hmm. It sells. It's sexy. All this hate is sexy to them. They love it
because we all buy into it.
Yeah,
in society,
you know. So when your circle of influence, like if you watch this show, these networks, and if you're influenced by all that, and that's all you see, you think, oh, everybody thinks the way I do.
Yeah, no, they don't.
No, they don't. You lost a freaking election because they don't agree with you. You're ignoring the vast majority of this country. Yeah. Okay, so you have more people in a few cities. That's irrelevant. Yeah. That's never been our system. And if you don't believe in this political system and the way we vote, well then, what, now you want to change it? Now you're just pissed off. You're going to be pissed off for the entire 4 years. And if the guy wins again, you're going to be pissed off for another 4 years?
Yeah.
You're just not getting it. Let it go. This is the American way. Half of the country is always pissed off because of who's in office.
Yeah.
But they don't always control all the cameras and don't kill comedy over it.
Yeah.
Like, when has comedy ever been dead because of who's in office?
I don't remember a time ever when comedy's been dead.
And when have you ever wanted your president to be your moral leader? When did anyone when did that happen?
Well, here's an example, though, too, right? And I hate the
Was
fact...
Kennedy your moral leader? Cheat on your wife.
Yeah.
Oh, and everybody loves Kennedy.
Yeah. Well, the other Kennedy killed somebody, so there's that.
Exactly. Chappaquiddick. And he stayed in office.
But
that was okay.
You know, and I hate the fact that we're gonna keep it political, I guess, but we have no. It's part of daily life, I guess.
Got that right,
So we
Richard.
kind of have to keep it going. They only mad because they lost.
Yeah. Get over it. Take an L. Take the L. You lost.
But no, you're right. I mean, they took a loss, but I think the problem once again lies with, hey, like we don't like bullies, but then you're going to be a bully. There was a situation that happened. I don't know. It was
They're bigger than bullies, though, bro.
It was a couple years ago, right? I think now. I don't remember when it happened.
Yeah.
Somebody correct me if I get it wrong.
Right.
But I think it was like a year or two ago at this point. There's a situation that happened. And mind you, I'm not a Trump guy, right?
Right.
I don't really care. Like, I'm not for him or against him. There's certain aspects that he does I think is kind of good, and there's certain stuff that he does I think he's an idiot. You know what I mean? But that you can pick any politician in history.
I was going to say every single one.
And I felt the same way about them. As much as I liked Obama, there's a lot of things he did too I didn't care for. So,
Right.
But I digress.
Yeah.
There was a specific circumstance to me that went above politics,
Right.
and I think Trump handled it very, very well. But what I was amazed at is how the media and even people, just average everyday citizens, took it to a level I didn't think it needed to go. And from a spiritual perspective, I think that's very damning for us.
Right.
And that is the march that took place in Charlottesville. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a situation that happened. Obviously, for those of you who live under a rock and don't know, there were individuals there who are considered the quote-unquote Nazis, and the other side was considered, I guess, essentially non-Nazis.
No.
And they were marching.
Nazis and non-Nazis.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were marching, and they both had obviously different sides of the argument.
Right.
And some idiot decided to run over somebody in a parking in a crowd and kill them. And then when the Trump came out and his statement essentially was, there were fine people on both sides,
Right.
and there were not so fine people on both sides.
Right.
And he was lambasted for that.
Right.
And so my thing is, this is where my perspective came into play. I watched a lot of the coverage of that,
Right.
and one of the shows that I watch on a consistent basis actually had a special on it, right? And during that special, they showed the non-Nazis
Right.
throwing bags of urine on the Nazis, right?
Boy.
And this is where I'm coming from. Now, I'm not saying I agree with the Nazi side of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't. I think that's a ridiculous stance.
Yeah.
Having said that, do I think that there were good people on that side who were maybe misinformed or ignorant of some facts
Right.
or caught up in the moment of stuff? Absolutely.
Right.
But do I also think that there's just straight up assholes on that side?
Right.
Absolutely. But on the flip side of that, the quote-unquote non-Nazi side, do I think there's some really good and just people on that side? Absolutely. Do I think there's some assholes on that side? If you throw a bag of urine on somebody, you are now an asshole. Like
Dude, you're more than an asshole. You're a dead asshole.
Yeah, we're fighting, and so to me, that's kind of what I'm saying is these people were protesting what they felt to be hatred,
Right.
and their way of showing that was feeling validated and throwing a bag of urine on somebody. At what point does throwing a bag of urine on somebody mean that you're just as bad as
Right.
the person that you're hating?
And it's premeditated.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's premeditated.
Yeah.
You didn't go, oh, there's Nazis here. Let me urinate in something and throw it at them.
Yeah.
No,
Even then, that would be horrible.
You came there prepared
Yeah.
to throw it, and it just so happened it was convenient that it happened
Yeah.
to be Nazi. What if they wouldn't have shown up?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you know that 5 Nazis are going to show up? Because isn't that the way it is?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a KKK march here. I remember when I first moved here, and they marched. It was a bigger group,
Yeah.
and then it was a smaller group, and then it was like 5 people. Like now,
Wow.
I mean, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
like
nobody-
they're losing. They have been losing. They have
Yeah,
been
of course.
disappearing.
Yeah.
And all we're doing is fueling the membership line of the Nazi Party
Yeah.
because the left went so far left
Yeah.
that it's actually fueling it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I,
But anytime you hate somebody enough to bring urine to the party,
yeah, I mean,
your hate is out of
that's
control.
but that's what I'm saying. It's like
you need to rethink
that's
that.
what I'm saying. But they feel so vindicated, so justified in their stance,
And they got no flack for it.
that they don't understand.
flack for
Like,
it.
dude, you're an asshole if you're throwing urine on somebody. What is wrong
Yeah.
with you? Like, you are the problem.
Right.
This person who is spewing hate speech,
Right.
essentially, who is saying also, I think the big line that I kept hearing was "Jews will not replace us," whatever that means. But
Jews will not replace us. What is it?
I don't know
From who said that?
the quote unquote Nazi side.
Oh.
They were that's the only chant that I heard. My point being,
They're still mad at the Jews. Poor Jews, the most hated people on the planet forever. And yet they've been able to economically rise as a people rise because they hold on to their faith, they hold on to their sense of community, and they've been able to deal with all the punches.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But no, I mean,
good for you, Jewish people. You've done well.
In theory, though, the only thing that this side of things was guilty of is just saying some distasteful things. That's what they're guilty of.
Yeah.
Whereas this side is guilty of throwing bags of urine. And then I also saw another a segment or clip where the guy was getting up to speak, and of course, what was coming out of his mouth was just trash, essentially. But the other person wouldn't even let him speak. They came up and like stormed the podium and like wanted to punch him. Like, dude, you're losing the moral high ground here.
Right.
Like, if you're preaching tolerance, what you're really like, what I hear when I see that side talking is, I'm tolerant of those who agree with me.
Yes.
That's what I hear.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's not tolerance.
That's
not acceptance.
No.
You know, the true definition of tolerance and acceptance is, you know what? You think differently than I do, but I accept you anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and if I feel that I'm right, because obviously, you know, from coming from a spiritual perspective, I feel that I'm correct. I feel like I'm correct in my interpretation of all of this.
Right.
Having said that, if I see you doing something that I think is spiritually corrupt, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to love you where you're at.
Right.
That's the best way to change you, is to love you where you're at. Yeah. If I just accept you for who you are and just realize that's just not where you're at on your journey, and just allow you to get there, I think I'm going to have a better relationship with you than if I throw a bag of urine on you.
Yeah, shaming me is not loving me.
No.
Shaming people is not love. And you should know that more than anyone.
Exactly.
Because that is exactly what you had been saying for a long time. Shame is not love. Shame is bad. Stop shaming us for being gay, or stop shaming us for feeling differently than you, or stop shaming us because we don't carry your religious belief system. Stop shaming us, shaming. And then all of a sudden, that's all I hear is shaming. Yeah. I mean, if you walk out there and you say look, I don't think there's one person in my position, which is independent, that goes out there and says, I support Trump, without saying what you said, which is, I don't like a lot of things he says. You have to say that.
Well, you have to justify your stance.
You have to justify your stance. So, again, polls were wrong the first time, and this is before all this madness.
Yeah.
They're never going to know what's going to happen until it happens, because there's so many people I voted for Hillary last time and didn't tell anybody. Remember, I came on these shows and I said, I'm not going to say who I voted for, because, number one, it didn't matter, right? My vote is my vote.
Right.
And up until that election, you were allowed to keep your vote private, right? However, we lost. I lost.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's the American way. Like Richard Coleman says, I'm for America. I'm for America. My dad fought in Vietnam for the left and the right. My dad didn't go twice to Vietnam to just fight for one side. Yeah. My dad fought for both sides. All of us, we just celebrated Memorial Day. All of our veterans, all of our warriors, all of our soldiers and those families sacrifice every day for both sides. Yeah. So you have the right to not stand if you don't want to. You have the right to kneel if you don't want to. You have the right to be an asshole if you want to. But you don't have the right to throw frickin' urine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And here's what you should know and understand, that shame is bad always around. Hate is bad always around.
Exactly.
You're not teaching not only yourself nothing, but you're not teaching the children. It's like you're taking steps backwards by teaching your kids that, see that guy over there? That's a racist. Here's what I have a problem with. Being a bully is one thing, but I have a problem with calling people racist. Like, you hear people call Trump racist all the time. Yeah. There's not a worse word, I think, in today's society.
No, there's not.
Than calling someone a racist. So for all of you people out there calling the president of the United States a racist, you're screwing the United States. You're being disingenuous. You're actually allowing your hate to call somebody. You don't know the guy. You only know what your circle of influence and your media, our media, is telling us. You have zero understanding of that guy as a person.
Well, everything, anything taken out of context can be damning to somebody.
It's just bad words,
and that's the thing,
man.
is you don't know somebody, and to make such claims against another human being is like, whoa, dude, pump your brakes for a minute, man.
Yeah.
And I see that as well, though, right? Like, I see, and I know at the moment it might seem like we're picking on liberals, but that's just because it's an easy target, I guess. They're the ones.
Well, they're the ones exhibiting the most hate.
Yeah, they're the ones most vocal, but it's on both sides.
Right.
But even still, like, taking it out of the political arena.
Winners never have to show hate, though. It's like big guys like you.
Yeah.
you don't have to go around and act like an asshole because you can kick everybody's ass.
Yeah, I don't have to bark a whole lot.
Right. Right.
It's usually the pit bull in the room that's the quiet one.
Right.
But no, I think that you take the political stuff out of it even, right? You have other stuff. You have other quote unquote hatred on a daily basis that on a smaller scale that we all deal with every day, right? Like you have people who hate others who have like a big truck. Mm-hmm. Or you hate people who have so we'll use that one, right? You have individuals out there. I have a big, Toyota Tundra out there, big rim, big tires and stuff. And I could totally see somebody who is a vegan, who loves planet Earth and drive around a Prius.
Yeah, you're wasteful.
Could just look at my truck immediately and make all sorts of judgments about who I am and hate me.
Planet Prius? Is that what you said?
No, they're all
I thought you said Planet Prius.
But then on the flip side, I can see there's a lot of people out there who judge people who are the vegan who drives a Prius, and they hate him. They hate them too. Yeah. And that's my problem is we all get into this.
Those aren't hate, though. No, those are jokes. Those are look.
There's some of them that do hate, bro.
Look, if you hate someone just because they drive a Prius, I've never met anyone that is hate. I mean, hate. Yeah. Because you drive a Prius. Yeah. I've met a lot of people make fun of them and joke. Right. And that's fine. Sense of humor is good.
I'll take their gas miles per mile, though.
Not like like those the PETA when they throw like blood on people wearing fur coats. That's bad. That's hate.
But even using them
that doesn't teach
I'll use
someone.
them as an example as well.
That doesn't teach it. PETA has never taught anybody. Greenpeace never taught anybody.
I was actually a vegan for a year and a half, right? And so I learned a lot of the ins and outs of what is and what isn't vegan and whatnot. Right. Which Oreos are vegan, by the way, which is weird. But yeah. Anyways.
Maybe I'm vegan.
But using that as an argument even with the PETA stuff, right? So PETA feels vindicated because they are hating people who do anything with animals. Right. And yet, if the person who is a PETA member, if you live in like an industrialized area, if you have a house, like guess what? Animals died for that. Right. Like you took over their habitat. Like it's impossible to unless you live off the grid out in the middle of absolutely nowhere and eat nothing but flowers. And even then,
and smell like patchouli all day.
But even then, if you're eating flowers, well, some sort of animal eats those flowers. You just took their food,
and you killed a plant, which a plant is life. Yeah. Right. Because if that flower lived on Mars, we would say Mars has life.
Correct. So my point being is this idea
I support the plant.
Of there's an old the old cliche, whenever you point a finger there's three more pointing back at you.
Damn straight.
There's some truth to that, and I think that's what we all kind of have to keep in mind, man, when we're going through our daily lives and we're dealing with individuals that we don't agree with.
Right.
You can disagree with somebody and still not hate that person. You could disagree with somebody on one instance and still agree with them as a whole. Right. Like you and I disagree on certain topics sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Tom Brady's the greatest ever. You do.
I don't think he's the greatest ever. Well, I just think he deserves respect.
So, my point being...
See, we don't even agree on what I think.
Exactly. But my point is, does that mean we got to hate one another now? Like, no, dude. Like, you can disagree without hating. Like, it's not that serious, dude. Calm down. Like, chill. Right.
And we don't hold on to it either.
No.
It doesn't... we'll joke, and we joke a lot. Yeah. And we might use that jab again.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course. It's part of the game, bro.
Right.
But no, so I think that, if you're watching the show, obviously spirituality means something to you.
Right.
And so if you're seriously trying to take on the spiritual challenge, if you will, and you're trying to find that happiness, and you're still holding some sort of hate for anybody in your heart, right, you're going about it the wrong way. That's the key difference there.
And don't listen. What is that? That Pelosi, when she goes, I pray for him. That's almost like bless your heart. That's like a Southerner saying bless his heart, right? That's like calling him an imbecile. You know what I mean? It's like, have a little respect for the office itself. You can't say you have respect for the office, or that another person doesn't have respect for the office when you're disrespecting the office. Right. Look, you want to hate the person, hate the person. Don't respect the office itself. Back off. Win the office. Because you're gonna lose again. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, right? If we really go, I don't know about you. I don't know how your financial situation is. I only know how my financial situation is. But that's usually what means more to people when it comes to government, right? Yeah. I've never looked at government to manage my moral ground in my household. Right. I never looked at government to show my household. I never said, hey, listen, Dahlia and Zoe and Dana, let's modify our life to be just like the president of the United States. Never. I've never done that ever. I've raised my kids to our morals and values that we cherish. What I look for government to do is Can I please not hit potholes? Can I please have medical insurance that doesn't cost me an arm and a leg?
Yeah.
Can you please keep me safe enough so when I'm walking around, I don't feel like there's going to be a bomb explode in my neighborhood or
Safe.
something like that? I want to feel safe.
Right.
If those things are happening, then thank your government, thank your local government, and shut up.
Right.
But if it's just the morals that you're talking about, how about go teach your family your morals? That's your job. That's not government's job. Government should never teach us morals.
Well, you kind of reminded me like there's another segment of the population, right? Like, and this is still, I guess, semi-political, but right now, for I don't know how many decades, the straight white male Christian conservative essentially ran things.
Yeah,
and
he used to have his woman in check.
Wow,
he did. And you can't even drive. God, man, that power of that white man was huge.
And they made life kind of hell for anybody who
did.
didn't fit within that mold, right?
Bastards.
And nobody's going to argue that wasn't the greatest thing. Like, nobody's going to argue legitimately unless you're like a 90-year-old man who's bring back the day,
Yeah.
But to me, like, so I get it. I understand if I'm what is considered to be a minority in today's world, or if I have what used to be fringe belief system. I understand it. I understand the vindication that you feel in knowing that you outnumber those people, and you're wanting, like, you're getting the taste of your own medicine, that kind of thing. Like, I understand that, but the reason why I say that's a dangerous game to play is because you might not have that upper hand all the time. It feels good when you're winning, but what happens if
But they didn't.
No, they
didn't.
They're winning in the media, but they didn't win the elections.
That's what I'm saying. It's a false win.
True. But my point is, I understand the vindication, but you got to look in the mirror and realize that you're no better now.
Right.
You're trying to make those people feel the way you used to feel, and once again, I get it. I understand that need for vindication, but it's temporary, and at some point, if you truly are a good-hearted human being, if you legitimately saw the suffering that you might be putting some of these other people through, you'd feel like shit for it.
Right.
And so, as vindicated as you are, deep down, you're going to feel bad about it at some point, right? Like, if you saw somebody who was, let's say, somebody was wearing a MAGA hat, right? And the go-to for everybody is if somebody was out there in the streets and they're getting made fun of because they have a MAGA hat, it was, oh, well, that's what you deserve. Don't be a snowflake for it, right? That's how they feel about it. But yet, if somebody was kissing another boy, or some boy was kissing another boy, and they came up and started making fun of him, they'd be outraged. And if the other side was like, hey, well, stop being a snowflake, man, get over it, it wouldn't be so cool anymore. And so now I envision that person wearing a MAGA hat. Just imagine that they live in a household that believes in the MAGA, but not the one that you think. Not the racist, whatever. No, but the legitimate household.
Yeah, exactly. Those are your words.
A legitimate household who is loving, caring, compassionate, and just has a different way on how to fix things, right?
Like a Chick-fil-A household.
Yeah, like, well, that's the thing, right? Is the real difference between the Democrat and Republican, the real major difference is I think they both want
religion.
Well, maybe. The way I see it is the biggest difference is they have a disagreement on how to get to the end goal. I think they all want the same end goal where there's prosperity and everybody's happy and everybody's living a life that they're safe and I think they all kind of have the same overall goal.
I don't know.
But they have a difference on how to get there. One side says basically handouts essentially and love your fellow man, whatever, and the other side says earn it. But at the end of the day, they all kind of want the same thing. And so that's my thing is in life in general, we all want the same thing. We all want happiness. Now we define that differently. And we think that we're going to arrive at it differently, but at the end of the day, we want happiness. We want that feeling of I'm good, I'm okay, and that's different amongst others. Just because my okay is different than your okay doesn't mean that mine's better or worse, or I'm right and you're wrong. For me, I'm right, but for you, I might not be. For some people, that $1 million might make them happy. That whole idea of
good luck with that one.
Yeah, it might. I would argue that it doesn't, but for them it might. You never know. I've never met that person.
Nothing makes you angrier than losing $1 million. So it only feels good when you earn it. when it's back dwindled,
I don't know. I haven't
dwindled down. You're not going to like it so much anymore.
I haven't made my million yet, so I can't comment.
Yeah, check the account again.
Yeah, but my point just is that as vindicated as you feel, hate is still hate.
Right.
I don't care where angle you're coming from. You know, like, it doesn't matter what my belief system is if I shot you.
Right.
At the end of the day, you still got shot. You know, and that's the thing, is hate is still hate. I don't care how I justify my hatred. I don't care how vindicated I feel of my hatred. Hatred still hurts. And there's still a victim there.
And you know what? You're not growing anymore. If
No.
you're hating, you're not growing.
No.
You're accepting all of your behavior. You're accepting all of the stress, the anxiety. Stress and anxiety and hate cause emotional pain, and emotional pain causes physical pain. And so then what? Are you going to blame the other person or the other side for all your physical pain and angst? You know, you can't do that. It's your perception of the entire deal. Like, especially like in this situation that we're talking about, Trinity, we know it's timed. We know there's an end to it if done correctly. If you couldn't take the L so bad that the other side won and you don't know how to handle loss anymore, what do we need to do? Give you a participation trophy? Hey, you had a candidate. Think about libertarians. They didn't even have a candidate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about all the other people that believe differently than you. Like independents. I'm an independent. We didn't have a candidate.
Yeah, Bernie was our candidate.
Yeah,
He
we
was
had
the
Bernie,
independent.
and you guys screwed him out of the win.
Yeah.
You know, really, the person that should be mad is Bernie, because Bernie should have won the Democratic Party and didn't.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know about how you felt about Clinton. I voted for Hillary just because she was female. I admit it. Yeah. I did identity politics that last election, and I voted her just because she was female, because I wanted my daughters to know and see, wow, not only could we have a black president, but now we can have a female president.
Yeah.
Man, the borders are open. You know, look how much the world has changed. You guys can do anything you want. That's why I did it. I did it for social reasons. I didn't do it for my pocketbook. Plus, I like Bill. Even though Bill cheated on his wife, that's not me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't care about other people's morals. I expect politicians to lie, cheat, and steal. We don't want to hear about it. La, 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 la. You know what I mean? Like, people are surprised when they hear, oh, man, they did this to get this information. They did this to get this information. It's Washington, D.C.
Well, not only that, but
can you imagine the stuff they do?
We all do it anyways. Now, you know, we do it on our own lives. You know, if your life from an early age was put under a microscope, I'm going to tell you, most of us have some stuff we'd be a little embarrassed about.
Especially if you have $1 billion.
Yeah, you know,
you're gonna have a lot of stuff,
and that's the other thing, though, right? Is a lot of people are, well, I wouldn't do.
You would.
You don't know what you would or wouldn't do because
right.
you're not in that scenario.
That's right.
You're not in that exact situation. I know lots of people who believed when confronted with violence that they would fight back, and they froze. And I also know other people who thought that they would freeze and ended up fighting back.
That's right.
Like, so you don't know what you would do. So, you know, stop trying to judge the other person's, you know, actions or behavior until you've walked in their shoes. You know, the example that I use.
Stop being Daenerys.
the example
go to that example.
Well, the example I use all the time, just because it's relatable, I think, for a lot of people, is a puppy, right? If nobody wants to be bitten, but if you go around a little puppy and you go down to pet it, and that puppy tries to bite you or it growls or whatever, most of us aren't going to say, I hate that stupid puppy and forget puppies, they're all bad, and then you kick that dog. Most average, well-adjusted people think you're ridiculous if you were to kick a puppy because it growled at you.
Right.
But why? It tried to bite you. That's a horrible thing. And they automatically go after the intent. They automatically go, well, you know, it was a puppy. It didn't really know any better. You know, it's scared. It's this big, huge person coming at them. They tried to defend themselves, and they didn't know what they're doing. We immediately go to the intent and not the action, right? It's one of those things where we judge other people by their actions. We judge ourselves by our intent.
Right.
You know, and we got to stop doing that. And that's what happens. And so that person that you're yelling at, that person who's making a decision that you don't necessarily agree with, okay, you're looking at their actions, but you don't know what their intent is. And until you've spoken to that individual and gotten to know them, you're never going to know what their intent is. It doesn't matter what you see reported on TV. That's somebody else's perspective of what just happened. Unless you talk to the horse themselves and get it straight from them, you're not going to know.
Right.
And so you're judging somebody's entire, you know, sense of self based upon one isolated incident that you were privy to one side of. And then you feel like that's justified to walk around hating them.
Yep.
You know, I don't think you would like that. You know, picture you on your worst day. I'm talking whatever the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life. I guarantee you somebody that you came across throughout that day, you probably mistreated. At some point, you might have been mean to or rude to, or maybe you physically, you know, got violent with them. Maybe you said some stuff. Anybody out there who has a spouse, right? I'm pretty sure at some point you said something shitty to your spouse. Would you want your spouse to just focus in on that one thing that you said and completely disregard who you are and what you've meant to them for the last however many years and just judge you based upon that one thing?
Now imagine every channel misrepresenting your words.
Yeah.
Every channel misrepresenting what you're doing.
Yeah.
Imagine having to make the toughest decision. There is no job more difficult than that job. There is no power position more difficult than that position.
Yeah.
And to say that you love the United States of America means I have to accept every single one of you.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
Those who, because of religious reasons, don't even choose to fight or would not even go to a hospital, whatever. Right. This freedom is for all of us, built by all of us. You cannot just focus on a couple segments of society and say all the rules have to be baby-proofed for these segments.
Right.
You know, you can't baby-proof this world.
Well, not only that.
You just can't.
The other thing that I think gets confused an awful lot, and I'm glad you said that because it reminded me of this key point, I believe.
Okay.
There is a huge difference between acceptance and agreement. I can accept you, and I can accept your belief system. Right. I don't have to agree with you. And just because I accept you doesn't mean I agree with you. And I'll give you a small example here. There's a gentleman that I've known for, a long time. I've known him for a very, very long time. We always joke that if you see the two of us walking with each other down the street, somebody's going to call the cops thinking I kidnapped him, right? Because he's a little Mexican dude.
Hey,
he's a little Mexican guy, right? And he always wears these like suits, like he's always suited up to go somewhere. And he's a what they call as an elder in the Jehovah's Witness religion. Okay, right. And when I say elder, I'm talking like they have a
hierarchy.
Well, they have an event here all the time. There's like 6,000-7,000 people show up to it, and he's a speaker for them. Like he's a big guy in that world. And him and I couldn't disagree more on certain aspects of the religious world. Right. Me coming as an atheist, we always joke because I call him retarded, and he calls me a heathen. You know what I mean? Like we just joke. Yeah, but we believe a lot of the same stuff, but for different reasons. Right. Right. Like we both believe you should treat each other with compassion and love and generosity. Right. My reason is because I just think that's how you're supposed to behave. Right. And creating a good karmic fruit for myself. And he feels that that's the way God wanted him to behave, or Jehovah in that instance. But the end outcome is the same, but the way we got there is just slightly different, right? Yeah. And so I can accept him for who he is, just like he accepts me for who I am.
For sure.
But we don't agree with each other, like on most things. Actually, we disagree a lot, and that's what I mean. Is it's possible to find common ground. It's possible to appreciate the human being behind the belief system. What he believes and why he believes it doesn't define who he is. Right. That's just how he gets to who he is, essentially. And so I think that's a big thing. Because I think a lot of people think that because I accept you, I have to agree with you. Right. No. Like, I'm not signing off on it. What I'm saying is that's who you are, that's who you want to be, by all means. You know, it is what it is. So you're not signing off on somebody else's thought process because you accept them. And I think that's a big one. People misunderstand.
So why become Daenerys? Why become the mother of dragons?
What now?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have become the mother of dragons. She used to be for the right things, right? That's what people had a problem with the ending with Game of Thrones, right? Yeah. Because she was always, she was for the slaves. You just completely
gave away for whoever hasn't seen it yet, by the way.
Oh, spoiler alert. That better? Spoiler alert. Look, you care if it got spoiled. If you didn't watch it yet, it's somewhere. Anyway, so she was so sweet and nice, right?
Yeah.
She was we were all pulling for her.
She was just.
She was pulling for her. But power becomes that way. So can you speak on that? Can you relate the two with what we're talking about?
How power corrupts?
Just the way it played out. And people had an issue with that, right? People didn't like the ending, so now they're bashing the writer. They're bashing the show, all because it didn't work out the way they wanted. It's like we have a segment of society that's getting more and more attention.
Yeah.
Because everybody has an Instagram account, everybody has a Twitter, everybody has a Facebook, everybody has a voice, right, that gets heard by people, and you have a circle of influence now that you get validated by a like or a share, and so you think, wow, I'm onto something. See, there's people that think like me. Yeah, there's always people that think like you.
Sure.
There's not that many different personalities in the world. However, you have to learn disappointment. And if you don't know about disappointment, by the way, there's a Dharma Time episode. Just look up youtube.com/Dharma Time and find the show on disappointment. Because what's happening right now is people are not learning disappointment. Everybody's a participation trophy. We should have gave the Republicans should give the Democrats a participation trophy for the last election, and maybe it would have made it better.
Well, I think also a lot of times people confuse somebody else's unwillingness to have confrontation as agreement, and I think that's kind of what's happening right now. Is I think that, like, I'll use myself as an example. There's a lot of stuff. I have a lot of memes and I have a lot of things that I think are funny or humorous or whatever. Never in a million years would I post them.
I'm not posting all the political stuff for sure.
Yeah, there's no way. And so a lot of times people just assume that my silence means I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
No, that just means I'm choosing to refrain from getting involved in some stuff.
Right.
And so I think there's a lot of people out there who are afraid of conflict, who don't want it. And so the ones who are being the loudest typically win.
Right.
And then back in the day, the people who were the loudest were the people who were anti-gay or whatever. Like, they were the loudest and they were winning. And nowadays, you have a newer generation who's coming up and they're louder, and therefore they're the anti-bigotry or anti-whatever, the way they see it anyways.
Except news used to be impartial.
Correct.
There is no news.
And so I think that's where the danger comes into play. Right. But as far as the Daenerys, connection there, I guess, is in her sense, she felt vindicated because she was overconsumed with rage and vengeance. Right. And the other part of that, I guess, is there was a study done. I don't remember who did it or whatever. It was about mob mentality, I guess. And one of the examples they used of the mob mentality was up in New York. They have the Puerto Rican Day Parade, every year, and I guess there was this one year.
Oh, I know what you're
there was a Puerto Rican Day Parade, and the women were going through there, and they were all being accosted. I think one woman got raped or whatever. They were all being assaulted. Like, it was.
I don't know about they all. Let's not use the word they all.
Well, the ones I'm talking about.
There was some being, yeah.
The ones the
full disclosure, I'm half Puerto Rican. So
the group that I'm referring to, they all were being assaulted. Right. I don't mean every girl in
those
the history,
females, right?
But and so.
And it was even on video.
Yeah,
people were filming it,
and a lot of people were wondering, like, well, how could these people do that? And it was the mob mentality. Like, a lot of these gentlemen, it took one person to kind of start that process, and for other people to not immediately reject that, to be like, oh, laugh or whatever, and encourage them. Next thing you know, the entire mob is all doing things that are outside of themselves. Like, that's not who they really are, but they get caught up in the moment, caught up with everybody, what's happening, and they start making some bad decisions. And I think that's how the power thing works. I think right now we're in a situation where it's acceptable to put down, like I said earlier,
to call someone racist,
the white male, straight, conservative, Christian, or whatever. It's easy to put those down. They're like the whipping boy, and everybody's laughing at it. And so ordinarily, you have people who, I think, if they met that person one on one in a neutral scene, would probably get along with them and think they're very fine people.
Dude, people hate on Chick-fil-A, bro.
Yeah, that's
because of their religious beliefs. Yeah. They hate on How do you hate on the nicest place on earth, even nicer than Disney?
Yeah, that's
Chick-fil-A is nicer than Disney, as evidenced by the lady getting arrested for her CBD oil at Disney. Chick-fil-A would never do that.
Yeah, I go there because they get treated well and the food's great.
Chick-fil-A is the nicest place on earth, and people hate on Chick-fil-A.
But even that, to be honest with you, like right now, there's a lot of people who are anti-Chick-fil-A because they support different organizations that do great work, but also are anti-LGBT rights in some sense. Like, not directly, but I like there was one, for instance.
But it comes out of religious beliefs. It doesn't come from homophobia. It comes from religion. Yeah. There's a difference between being homophobic and being religious. But plus, Trinity, look, if you're going to do that to Chick-fil-A, research all the companies you support,
that's
by the
what I was
way.
getting ready to say.
Because you would never, again, don't drive on the roads because a racist probably helped build that road. Don't live in your house because a racist probably hammered some of those nails. In other words, if you're going to be like that, then be like that. Yeah. Then go out into the woods and live on your own.
And that's where I say the hate is hate. I think that
it's ugly.
They get on this high horse and they forget, dude. Like, everybody's got a skeleton. Everybody's got a different perspective.
Live and let live.
And
you have the right to be an asshole.
You're the hero in somebody's story, but you're also the villain in somebody's story. Don't ever forget that. Yeah. No matter how you conduct yourself, there's somebody out there that you're the villain in their story.
For sure.
And you wouldn't want to be judged based upon that one person's perspective on how you were their villain. Well, don't judge other people, no matter how justified you feel.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, what's up?
When we went through school and all that, we had a history book, right?
Yeah.
Did they have a history book and an alternative history book?
No.
Right. So things were reported as factual as we come to know them, right?
Yes.
But when you speak to older people, sometimes they'll say, well, it wasn't really like that.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I never really understood that until now. I never understood why sometimes when we would talk about things that we were learning in school, my parents would say, well, it wasn't like that everywhere. It wasn't like that. I mean, that's kind of a little exaggerated.
Right.
Never understood that until it come to me now as an older guy to know, wait a minute, even these history books are opinion.
Well, the other
a
thing
lot of it is based on people's bias in their opinion.
On that same note, I'll tell you one of the things that shocked me growing up was I would learn things in history, right? And I thought, I mean, I was a 4.0 student. I was a good student. I mean, I knew my stuff.
Right.
But then when I got out of school years later, I talked to friends who were from other countries.
Right.
And I would talk to them
and they learned it differently.
About exact same, events that took place. And they were like, no, that's not what happened. I'm like, what do you mean? And they would explain to me what they were taught on how that particular event happened.
Right.
And I was like, what? And then I would go look it up now that we have the internet.
Right.
Because back when I was a kid, I had one source, my school book or my teacher, So I would go look on the internet. I would like, whoa, wait a minute. There's some truth to that. Like, I wasn't taught exactly how it happened. I was taught propaganda and how it happened.
That's right.
And so, for instance, we don't like to think that there's people out there, I'll say the Middle East at the moment.
Right.
There's people out there who might hate us for our belief system.
Oh, no, they're all loving people.
And we would hear what they would say, and we might think to ourselves, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm not like that. Like, that's not how I feel. Why do they hate me for that?
Right.
Well, but they've been taught.
Yeah.
And so some of these people that you're calling racist, like, maybe they're not racist. Maybe they're just ignorant. Maybe they don't have any black friends. Maybe they don't have any, white friends. Maybe all they've seen is what they've seen on TV reported to them, and that's what they're going off of.
Right.
Yeah, you could argue that it's ignorant and it's their responsibility to overcome that and do some own research. Sure, but that's a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean is just this hate is still hate, dude. No matter where you come from, no matter what angle it is. And hate still creates just as many victims no matter where it comes from.
Not every Muslim hates you, but not every person with a rebel flag hates you either.
Correct.
It's just that's the way it is.
And not everybody.
And you're allowed to have a belief system based on the way you were raised. You're allowed.
And not everybody who voted for Obama, thinks America's racist, and not everybody who voted for Trump is racist.
Well, here's the funny thing. Okay, so let's speak. I'll speak on that, and then obviously then you got to shut it off. But for all the people that voted for Hillary because she was a female, for all the people that voted for Obama because he was black, I think to say that people voted for Trump because he's white is your projection or your transference of the way you vote, of the way you are. You can't say, oh, people that voted for Trump is because he's a white guy.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. To say you're not allowed to vote for a white guy because he's white, but it's okay to vote for somebody if he's black because he's black. Where is the logic in that?
There isn't.
Where is the okay logic? Where is the teaching moment that we are supposed to teach our youth? Look, I did it. I voted for Hillary because she was female. I promise. I will never, hopefully, as long as I'm sane, I would never vote like that ever again, because now it woke me. I became woke. I got woke to the issues, and what I realized is that a lot of the issues that actually do affect me from politicians, I don't agree with the party that I was voting for all these years, because there's and we're not going to get into that, but there's so many issues that now, as a 49-year-old male, I look at differently that when I was an idealistic, kumbaya, angry, and I was angry young man. I was angry at the system as a young man. I'm angry at the system for very different reasons right now, because I try to help people on a daily basis, and I get these stumbling blocks, but there are many people within that system that help us do what we do, Trinity, and help us save lives the way we do. So it's no blanket, all these people suck, because it doesn't work that way. But anyway, if you vote for anybody just because they're white, black, or gay, you're all wrong.
Well, don't be a one-issue voter. There's a multitude of issues out there. Don't be a one-issue voter.
Marissa, you see Louis standing ovation. Now I'm gonna fall.
Exactly.
So if you don't know, Marissa's in a wheelchair. That's
all right,
don't stand.
Let's wrap this up. Let me thank our lovely sponsors before I get to our tips. The first sponsor I'll think is Retreat Behavioral Health. Very, very fantastic facility. Got some up in both Pennsylvania as well as down here in Florida. We have Journey Pure. They have a multitude of locations, mostly over Kentucky, some in Tennessee, everywhere pretty much. And then we have the Orange County Drug Free Coalition. Without them, we couldn't do what we do here locally. And then, of course, last but not least, the Now Matters More Foundation, of which he's the founder. I'm the president. You can find out more about who we are and what we do at nowmattersmore.org. You can donate there. You can check us out. And if you're in a situation where you're struggling with the disease of addiction and you don't know what to do, you can call 833 Now Matters. That's 833 Now Matters, and we will help you take care of that. All right, so let's get to the tips. We're running out of time. As you guys all know who watch this on a consistent basis, I like to give you some sort of an action plan at the end to help you kind of take that step forward.
Right.
And so today's 3 steps, if you were, three tips. The first thing you got to understand is, regardless of the perspective, everybody you come into contact with, including yourself, feels validated. They feel just as validated as you do in your perspective. So don't ever forget that. The second one is, just because you're more mad than the other person does not mean you're right. Just because you're more mad or you have more people around you who all feel more mad, it doesn't mean you're right. Anger and outrage is not an indicator of rightness, if you will. And then finally, the third one is simply, calm down. Calm down. It's going to be okay. Calm down. Relax. Let's find some common ground and let's navigate this in a more respectful manner. I think that's all I got, man. Now that you know better, everybody, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.